Hello and welcome to NAB 2017. I'm here at the Shure booth with Nick Wood.
Hi, Peter.
How are you?
Very well, and you?
I'm good. I am excited to be here because I'm excited to see the Shure Axient Digital.
Yeah, we are introducing Axient Digital this year at NAB. This is our next generation wireless platform for live events, broadcast, and content creation. We're really excited about it. It features a rack receiver platform and then a couple tiers of transmitters depending on what your application is. And there's some special transmitters for specific applications that I'd like to show you guys.
Show us.
All right. So right here we have our quad receiver. There's also a dual. And one thing that the entire platform shares is a new modulation scheme. Obviously, this is digital, Axient Digital, but it's not a reuse of the ULXD modulation scheme. We felt with the changes in spectrum and the challenges, which big productions were challenging already before the sort of reduction and anticipated congestion, we felt it was really important to take every opportunity to make a reliable RF link. That was the mission statement going into this. Design the modulation scheme and the coding and all together make a microphone that doesn't drop out or pursue the perfection of that as well as we could.
Awesome.
So all of these transmitters enjoy that new modulation scheme.
How does that manifest itself? Do you get increased range? Do you get increased reliability?
Yeah, both. In operating range, but also just in terms of your margin for error. If your environment has, if it's a fading environment with a lot of reflections, if it's a noisy environment, your ability to push the envelope and not experience mutes. We learned from some of the very best analog systems when creating this modulation scheme, just in the resiliency that you want. A digital system doesn't get noisy and warn you, it just mutes. So this system is designed to mute less, recover faster, and the operating range in our beta testing has been pretty astonishing.
Yes. I understand the rack receiver has some very special characteristics that set it apart. What are those?
A couple maybe to note. One is our receivers generally have a couple RF outputs for cascading the antenna signal to other receivers. This one does as well. We also have an option to use those outputs and convert them into inputs. So instead of two antenna inputs for the traditional Versity, we have 4 for something we call quad Versity. And this does what you might think it does. It doubles your inputs. It doubles the amount of data. Now you've got data from 4 antennas converted to digital, where we can assess the channel quality on each input and take the optimal mix of all of that. And some applications that we are sort of thinking about there, one is just to really enhance your chances for uninterrupted signal in a very difficult environment. So covering the same zone, but maybe something like what we have here at our booth with 4 antennas on the truss. Another would be just to cover an entirely different place, a red carpet, a green room, a hallway, a tunnel.
So either or use case scenario is what you have in mind. Either extended coverage in a tough environment, or zones where you traditionally have to use a combiner.
Right. And then the nice thing about quad Versity is you won't have to manage it or turn antenna zones on and off. The receiver is constantly in the digital domain assessing all of those and taking the best possible data for the signal.
And each rack unit will have 4 receivers. And is that going to be regardless of whether I use quad Versity or not?
There is a interesting trade-off there. First of all, quad Versity, we only have it in our quad receiver, not the dual. And when you're using that, because it is really true discrete RF inputs, a quad receiver becomes a 2-channel receiver. So in our sort of traditional RF meters, the LED stacks, you'll get 4 LED stacks for 1 piece of audio.
Oh, wow. So if you have mission critical, you'll turn your quad receiver into 2 receivers, but otherwise, for regular stuff, you'd have 4 receivers.
Yes, yeah.
In the single rack.
Yep.
Cool. And is there, besides analog audio out, any other audio outputs?
The standard, what comes standard on the receiver are analog XLR and 1/4 inch, AES3, and Dante.
Dante is standard.
Yeah, Dante is standard and AES3 is standard. And they can all be running concurrently. The Dante has a redundant, so two ports if you wish to use redundant networks, and it also by default splits the data from the audio if you want to have the separation of concerns.
Sure.
Or you can just run them as a 4-port switch.
And speaking of separating audio and data, I assume it'll have the same Yamaha integration as the other ULXD products?
Yes. Coming soon, but yes.
All right, that's fantastic. Excellent.
One other thing to note about the receiver, which may be of interest, so it runs on AC power, and it has an AC power cascade port on the back. We are developing a modification, or at least an option where it's applicable to, instead of having the AC output, a secondary power input, a DC input on a 4-pin XLR connector. This would run on a variety of voltages, 10 to 30 volts, so that you can make this thing somewhat portable.
Yeah.
Or have it fail over to a secondary power if it needs to.
That's huge. That's fantastic. Wow. Really, really exciting stuff. So really, this could fit in very nicely on a sound card.
Yeah, we hope so.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that kind of use, what kind of transmitters do you guys have for it?
I'll introduce just very briefly them as two tiers, two families of transmitters.
Yeah.
The AD series. This is essentially a replacement of UHFR, although it's a lot more feature-rich, perhaps, and the performance I think is gonna be noticeably better than UHFR. A handheld and a body pack. The body pack available in LEMO and TA4, and the battery options here include AA, if that's what the job requires, or the SB900 rechargeable battery, which already exists.
And I think some of the people watching this may not be aware of Shure's efforts in the rechargeable battery arena. Instead of going with an off-the-shelf Amazon.com solution, you guys did something different, right?
We, starting with Axient and in a number of product lines across our whole catalog, have started to use what we call smart batteries. These are lithium-ion batteries with a fuel gauge circuit embedded that lets us give you battery metering in hours and minutes. The battery can report its own health. How is its full capacity as compared to when it was a brand new battery? Just a lot of metrics our intention is to give you more information than you've ever had about your battery.
And completely designed in-house. It's not something that you're slapping a label on. This is your battery.
Yeah, we design our batteries and chargers.
Yeah, and you have rack mount charger options and all kinds of stuff.
There's a number of different chargers. The rack mount is one of them. That's designed to just be able to transport the batteries in it, come right off the truck and begin charging as soon as you plug it in.
Yeah.
There's docking chargers. There needs to be a variety, I think.
Totally agree, and really happy to hear it. What other transmitter options do you have?
Okay, so I introduced the AD series. The ADX series are the enhanced transmitters. Each of these feature our ShowLink technology, which is a way to remotely control them, manage them over a 2.4 gigahertz two-way data connection that's been pretty reliable and worked well for us in Axient. So we wanted to bring digital and that feature set together. It enables the interference avoidance if you want to use that. But more than anything, I think it's the ability to just change a transmitter at the moment you think of it without running and chasing down a talent. Or,
yes.
You can do it from far away the second that you need to.
And just a word about ShowLink, again, for people that might be new to this technology. It's not a totally proprietary
it's built on a standard. It's built on the 802.15.4 IEEE standard, also known as Zigbee, which on top of which we put a bunch of system behavior and software in to make it do what we wanted it to do. But we chose the standard because it's low data rate, doesn't need a ton of battery power, and is available worldwide. And has relatively long range out of the box. Yes, we did some things to ensure that the range. We wanted it to be sort of commensurate with the range of the microphone, the forward link. Yes. So that goes into a lot of our own designs. The antenna, the way we would repeat messages if we needed to, just to make sure that everything is stable and solid. Yes, absolutely. All right, so we should introduce maybe before we're done the ADX series. This is the ADX One Body Pack. This uses a rechargeable battery, and it's got an enclosed compartment. It'll have a IPX4 rating.
Okay.
It's got the buttons and stuff sort of protected behind there. This is the ADX2 handheld transmitter. It's actually more slender and refined in its design than a lot of our handhelds, especially considering the amount of technology in it, which is the ShowLink radio, the digital UHF radio, and a frequency diversity option that looks identical and has, aside from its model number, and has 2 independently tunable carriers if you want, for the money talent, another level of protection.
Meaning transmits on 2 frequencies simultaneously.
Yeah. One thing that's been helpful to explain is we have 2 features that address the problem of interference. Yep. Interference avoidance is about moving from a bad frequency to a good one really fast. Frequency diversity is transmitting on 2 frequencies all the time, and if one of them gets hit, you hear nothing because you've already got the audio on the other. So they can be used together or separately, and we have both.
And
last but not least,
I'm very excited about this.
The ADX One micro body pack. It's a unique transmitter that was born of a lot of conversations with sound designers, theater audio directors, and A2s in the television business and theater, people who put transmitters on talent for a living, and really gave us a lot of insights about what the ideal shape of a transmitter is, and it's not necessarily a box.
Right. No, this has no corners at all. I mean, no corners. It's fantastic, and also you may have noticed no antenna at all. Can you talk about how there's no visible antenna?
Yeah. So in those discussions, one thing that generated excitement was, the antenna is an irritation. It needs to be hidden. It pokes people. When you solve those problems, you end up compromising the antenna. The traditional dipole antenna, when you bent it over or put it right against somebody's body, it gets detuned. We wanted to design a body pack that is really designed to be worn on the body directly. This material allows us to keep all the antennas internal. There's 2 Versity 2.4 antennas for the ShowLink. Right. There's a primary radiating UHF antenna, and there's also a secondary sensing antenna, which we use for a self-tuning, a proprietary self-tuning algorithm that we developed that addresses the problem of what happens when you wear it against your body.
Sure.
We know it's going to be worn there, and so we sense the degree to which it's been detuned. That's the secondary antenna's job. This informs a circuit that manipulates the primary antenna in a corrective way. This happens in real time without any management or manipulation, and it means that this thing will perform as well as any body pack despite the lack of an external antenna when it's worn the way we expect it to be used.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So it instead of fighting the human body as an absorption of RF, it's working with it.
Yes.
There's something very elegant and ingenious about that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I look forward to getting this in the field. I guess we should talk about some specs.
Yeah.
What's the bandwidth of the receiver, the band pass, band split?
Yeah, it's the receiver is capable of 189 megahertz tuning range, the primary SKU. There's another one that is capable from 606 to 810, but the regulatory environment sort of dictates what the actual tuning ranges are. One of the most important things I think to say is that the transmitters and receiver have the same tuning range. The micro body pack and the receiver come in a band that are equal to each other, and you don't have to consider multiple transmitters and juggle them with the same receiver. So that's pretty clean.
Yep.
Another thing we did was, as soon as we knew the results and of the auction, that it was an 84 megahertz clearing target and where the guard bands would be, we already will, when we ship this, have a forward-looking and post-auction compliant band. So it'll tune 470 to 608 and also cover the 2 megahertz guard band on the other side of TV 37.
Fantastic. That's quite a feat. That's really great, and especially with the transmitters the way they are. And output power on the transmitter, and I know it's a digital transmission. But
no, they all have variable output power, so you can select a low and a high and a medium in some cases. I want to say the micro body pack is 2, 10, and 20. There's higher output power options on the body pack. The ADX2 can go to 50 milliwatts, which on a digital signal is really equivalent to something much higher.
Yes.
We're talking about the RMS power, not the peak in digital, and the receiver performance is a huge part of the actual operating range.
Right.
But those are the RF output powers. 10 is standard, 2 is low. We use 2 also for something called high density mode, where we exponentially increase the number of channels you can operate, which is nice to have if you need it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about high density mode. How many channels can you squeeze in?
Yeah, so spectrum efficiency is really important to us just strategically as a company. And that's why we have a high density mode. We want to make sure that this is an extremely spectrally efficient system without even using that special mode. So in its standard modulation scheme, you can get in a 6 megahertz if you had a continuous open TV channel to work with, 15 or 16 channels of microphones, and it's extremely robust standard mode.
Impressive. Yeah.
High density mode here is also different than the high density mode we did in ULXD. We redesigned it for better operating range, so that the trade-off is not as great. And there you can get up to 47 microphones in a 6 megahertz span of spectrum.
Wow, that's incredible. When will this be shipping?
So we expect this to be shipping late summer with the AD series this year. The ADX transmitters and a new diversity access point will come later at the very beginning of 2018.
All right, we look forward to it.
I do too.
Nick, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.